Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and in today's video we are going to examine the flight characteristics of the new Fenix Block 2 update. So, we're sitting here in the IAE version of the plane, so things are a tiny bit different than they used to be on the previous CFM. But basically what we're going to look out for is the following points, which previously led me to say the Fenix flies straight. Now, that comment got quite a bit of feedback, but the good thing there is that it has not only got feedback by the fanboys, but it's also been addressed by the development team. And we have seen quite some work done on the descent dynamics, the landing dynamics, and so on. And this is what we're going to cross-check today. So, A320 CFM engines, we have loaded it up to a gross weight of 62 tons, and we're standing here in Rijeka, where we did our previous video as well. Initially, we're going to climb it up to 5,000 feet, and then we're going to do a 250 knots idle descent test, where we expect to see somewhere around 1,500 feet per minute rate of descent. The previous versions of the Fenix had up to 2,500, which obviously was much more drag than the airplane is supposed to have. So we're looking for that lesser rate of descent now. Then we're going to slow it down to the minimum clean speed green dot, and we're expecting a rate of descent just greater than 1,000 feet a minute over there. Now from there on we are going to establish ourselves on an RNAV approach, runway 32, which we're going to turn into a touch and go. Initially we are going to make a config 3 landing, and thereafter we are going to make a config full landing, examining the flight dynamics and the drag behavior of the aircraft in those phases. And that is our basic plan for the day. So those were major points where the Fenix previously lacked in terms of flight dynamics and what the airplane could do. So let's see how those have evolved with the update. According to the changelog, they've all been addressed. So let's see if that is really the case. Alright, takeoff. Mantoga SRS auto thrust blue. Thrust set. .100 knots. Oh, a little lag there. V1 rotate. Positive climb. Gear up. Nav checked. Heading. Nose climb, auto thrust. Open climb. Interesting that open climb took a bit longer to engage there. Alright, so let's keep it over the water initially, and then we are going to make our left-hand turn in a few moments to stay in the immediate vicinity of the airport. Flap 0, speed checked. Flap 0. Okay, cool, so left turn heading 300, keep it away from the shoreline. And we've got 2,000 to go. Vertical speeds. Okay, we can make that a further left turn heading 280. Here we go. Not following the flight director too closely down there. I'm pretty much happy with that bank angle for now. Okay, so let's go ahead and put it on autopilot for a moment. AP1. I'm also going to put the terrain on over here because we do have a couple of hills coming up in the front there, but we should basically be running pretty good where we are right now. Okay, so turn back towards the airport. Let's make that a heading of initially 180 degrees. So here we go now. Let's go ahead and explore what we're going to do next. So I am going to disconnect the autopilot and the flight director. Then we are going to go into thrust idle, and we'll just have to establish at a 250 knot descent, and we're going to see what kind of rate of descent we are going to get from that. I'm just going to wait until we're wings level, because a banked turn would obviously increase our descent rate due to more drag and less lift pointing upwards. Okay, so about to reach heading 180, and once we've reached that, we are going to start with our first exercise. Terrain should be clear in the front there, that is alright. Cool. Autopilot off, flight director off, bird on, going down 3,000 feet, and power idle. So let's have a look at what we're going to get. As I mentioned, roughly 1500 feet a minute is what we're looking for. So our thrust is in idle, we're descending, maintaining roughly 250 knots, 1300 feet a minute. That looks like we're slightly losing some speed here. Let's make sure that we're actually maintaining it accurately. 1400 feet a minute. Very good. That 100 feet a minute, that can be due to local atmospheric variations, etc., so I'm not too worried about that. I would say that is a test passed. Then let's go ahead and fly back into the area of the airport, and over there we are going to see how the airplane is going to descend with minimum clean speed. So, activating the approach phase here. Let's start slowing it down a bit. Heading 140 is looking good. Okay, so first things first, with this rate of descent, the deceleration actually looks pretty good. I do like that. I do very much like that. So, quickly matching that heading, and then we just gotta pick up that cabin call here, see what they gotta say. Hello?
The cabin is now secure for landing.
Thank you. Alright, here we are. So, about to reach green dot speed. I'm going to set the target altitude down towards 2000 there. We might have to climb that back up, but I just want to be able to see at which rate of descent it is eventually going to stabilize. So, let's start that experiment now. Alright, looks pretty stable to me. 1300 feet a minute, very nice. That is about what I would expect. Cool, then let's level off in 3000 here. I kind of expected this would have taken longer, for that reason I set the FCU altitude down earlier, but looks like we are very well stabilized over here. So let's bring the automatics back on. Auto thrust. Okay, speed. Checked. Okay, so alt heading, flight director 1 and 2, autopilot 1, lever asymmetric. I really wonder why it's doing that. I do seem to have a problem with that since the new update. Okay, here we go. So, going to extend the center line from Nuskar over here with the radial indirect. That's looking good. Insert that. Here we go. Alright, so I would say the first two experiments are passed. The rate of descent in idle thrust, both at 250 knots and at the minimum clean speed, are now looking very good. That is exactly what we have been aiming for, and that is exactly what we were expecting. So we can now go ahead with the next phase of the approach. And that is going to be checking the pitch and power values on the final, and most importantly making sure that we do get correct pitch values. So what would correct pitch values look like? Well, rather easy. We are going to start with a config 3 approach, so let's go ahead and select that down here. Previously, the Phoenix really had problems with config 3, and basically you couldn't do that at all. Now, that has changed now, or at least they say it's changed. I can tell you that much from my very first live stream. It's look better indeed, but let's see how good it looks. So using config 3, we're expecting a Patron final approach that is in the region of just about 5 degrees. Might be a little bit lower, depending on the actual circumstances. So if we see plus or minus 1 degree, that is completely acceptable and within the limitations of what Microsoft Flight Simulator can do anyway. Now, on top of that, we're also going to have a look at the drag model. And for that, I am going to increase the speed a little bit more again. Let's go towards 230 knots. And then when I'm going to pull the power back down into idle, we want to see how quickly the airplane decelerates, and we want to see how much of a difference extending the landing gear is going to make on our flight. Okay, so that heading looks good, and I would say with that we're pretty much prepared here. So once we're 5 miles from the extended centerline, I am going to go back to managed speed, and then we're going to see how that's going to develop. Basically what we expect on final with the IAE engines, the pitch I told you already, and the power is about 5% less than what we would be expecting with CFM engines. So the gross weight here is 61 tons. With the CFMs, we would be looking at about 58% N1, so for the IAE engines, we are going to look at about 54%, and then another 5% down for a config 3 approach. Okay, so power is back down in idle. The speed trend looks okay. Let's go flaps 1 and see what kind of a difference that is going to make. Okay, nav mode is armed. So deceleration works pretty nicely over here. Nav. Interesting that when it captures nav, it just extends the centerline again rather than drawing the turn. Well, so be it. Okay, approach nav, final blue. So, nicely coming established, we are going to start our descent in config 1, which is the standard Airbus way of doing this, and then at 2,000 feet above the ground we're going to start configuring the airplane. That way we should be nicely stabilized when reaching approximately 1,000 feet, a little bit before that actually. And as I mentioned, pitch and power on the final using config 3, pitch just shy of 5 degrees, power about 45 to 50%. So, speed final approach. And I'm going to select pattern altitude here for our touch and go. Okay, so established nicely on the final, idle thrust. Speed is roughly staying where it's supposed to be. That is very good. That's how I would expect the plane to fly. Field elevation is 260 feet, so at 2,260 we're going to start configuring. Standard Airbus configuration is to go flaps 2. Once we're at flaps 2, we're going to go gear down, and so on. Alright, so flaps 2. Speed checked. Let's give it a small moment here to see. Flaps are coming down. That significantly reduces the pitch, as it should. Here we go. But the effect on the drag is still minimal. Now let's go gear down and see what's going to happen. So here comes the effect on the drag. And that looks kinda okay to me. At this point, I do have to say, fair enough, I don't have actual Airbus 320 reference there, but coming from the A330, that deceleration rate is pretty realistic. Alright, so then, let's go config 3. And here we go, config 3 is out. Look at the trend vector, it's just gotten quite a bit bigger. So the drag of config 3 is definitely there now. Yeah, landing checklist, ECA memo, landing no blue, landing checklist complete. So, we're about to reach the approach. Then let's see how the thrust is going to work out. The pitch is looking good, about 5 degrees. And the power, 45. Looks very good. Just shy of 45 now. That may of course just be due to a little bit of turbulence there. Alright, continue. That looks pretty good, to be honest. I am happy with that. Okay, then let's do a touch and go, and thereafter we are going to fly traffic pattern for a config full landing. The flare behavior should be changed quite a bit as well. I'm going to tell you when I'm going to start pulling up on the stick so that you can follow along. Nothing, nothing, pull. Alright, so the pitch on the touchdown looked alright. Slight bounce here again. It does take a little bit of getting used to the system. Alright, so and off we go again. So, positive climb, gear up. That was not the best of touch and goes, I have to say. That was certainly not the best. But I'm doing this on my mobile setup, so you can kind of take it from there. Alright, so reaching pattern altitude, down to climb thrust. Flaps 1. Speed checked. Alright, then let's turn into the pattern, flight directors off. This is really where a second pilot would be needed, especially when running on a small screen like that of a gaming laptop. But okay, a little bit shabby hand flying here. That is alright, at least for doing this on the mobile setup. On my desktop I would be like, oh boy, no. Okay, so let's activate the approach phase, and then we're going to do that stuff again. And this time we're going to do a config full approach to see if that is working fine. So just a small thing here in terms of pitch and power management. You can see that because our speed has increased a little bit, we had the automatic flap retraction, which is a standard feature of the Airbus 320 aircraft. What we can do in order to get back to the config 1 plus F, which we basically want to maintain for the approach, is we just go config 2, and then we go back, and now we get config 1 plus F. You can immediately see the effect of the flaps coming out, in that we have to reduce our pitch rather significantly. Okay, so here we are. Let's go ahead and reset that timer and prepare for the second approach. We're in 1500 above ground, 4 knots of headwind, so that means 45 seconds plus 4, so we're looking for 49 seconds on the downwind. Okay, down there is our runway, and as soon as we are abeam, we are going to hit the timer, and then we're looking for 49 seconds as we have just calculated. Come on, speed. Such a different feeling here doing that on my mobile setup. Alright, we're abeam, compared to doing it on my home with the Honeycomb Bravo. Mobile, I'm using the Thrustmaster Airbus stick and the Thrustmaster Boeing Throttles. As to why the Boeing, simply because I really don't like the detents on the Thrustmaster Airbus stick. Doesn't feel realistic at all, and gives me pretty much no range for manual thrust control, and for that reason I just prefer to do these things this way. Okay, so we are visual already, so let's delete that minimum here, config full, everything set up, looking awesome. Right, so flaps 2, speed checked, 45 seconds. We did start the timer a little bit late, so I would say I am happy to turn base like this. So, tiny bit of pitch down here. Let's start a very shallow descent. We are going to have 5 knots of tailwind on the final, but that is okay for me. Alright then, gear down. Now watch the speed trend vector over here.
Terrain ahead. Pull up.
Nope. Okay, so this is looking good. Final thing there. Okay, flips 3. Speed checked. For this one we are going to use an auto brake, because we do intend to do full stop landing, and flaps full. Alright, so we should be fully prepared now for the approach. The landing checklist is going to come up at 800 feet. There is our runway. 1000's checked. Once again, very hard to see the puppy in this simulator. This is so much easier in the real world when you can just move around in the cockpit much easier. Even though there are some places in the world, especially in the Caribbean, where the puppy is very hard to see in first place as well. But overall, I would say this is looking quite good now. Okay, landing checklist. Landing checklist complete. So, I am just about getting a bit back into the path. As soon as we are there, that's the point where we can evaluate the pitch on the final. About 2 degrees should be perfectly fine for what we need. And looking at this, look at that, 2 degrees. Awesome. So that's pretty much exactly what we're looking for. Alright, then let's have a look into the flare model once again. Flare. And on the runway. Alright, very good. So, spoilers, reverse green decel. Then let's go ahead and bring it to a stop. Auto brake is doing a very good job here, no need to do anything manual. We've passed 70 knots already. And we'll just have the plane come to a stop like this. Alright, so what kind of feedback can we give then? Well, to be honest, Fenix have done a very good job updating those flight dynamics. The plane has very good drag model now in the final approach. The plane has a good pitch and power setting using the flaps. And the drag of the landing gear did feel very good as well. So overall, what I can say here is that I'm pretty happy with the way how this turned out. I do believe Fenix have done a great job, and I am pretty sure that with coming updates it can only get better, but it is very good already now. So, can I still say Fenix flies shit? No, probably not anymore. They have done some very good updates over here, so congratulations to the Fenix team. And with that, I'm going to sign off on this video. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I do hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed flying this, and I am looking very much forward to see you all again on the next one. In the meantime, if you did like the video, be sure to leave a like on YouTube as well, as it does really help out the channel. Comment to let me know what you think of this one, and finally, if you're up for more, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and if you really love what I'm doing, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link on the video description below. Thank you for watching, and see you all again on the next one.